Okay, so hopefully it's recording. We'll see. Okay, so yesterday we did factoring, okay, right? And we did that because of what we're getting ready to do today. Okay, so if you have earbuds in your ears, take them out so you can hear what I have to say, okay? So if you practiced your factoring yesterday, then that'll make your life a little bit easier today, and that's what we want. So we're going to start simplifying rational expressions. What does rational mean again? What does rational mean? It means a ratio, yes. And what does that mean? Starts with an F. I heard somebody say it. Fraction. Okay? So we're simplifying these fractional expressions. So the key to rational expressions is factoring. Okay? And that's the first step. And that's why we practiced it so heavily yesterday. So you might even want to go ahead and today when you start your homework, finish your factoring first to just get your brain really going on that factoring stuff, okay? Okay. So here's some examples here. Now this one really doesn't require factoring. If this is too much for you, break it down, kind of split the numbers up, split the x's up, and split the y's up. Okay, if that helps. Some of you, you don't need to do that, but some of you do. Okay, so what does 4/12 reduce to? 1/3, very good. X to the third divided by x to the seventh, what does that reduce to? X to the what power? To the fourth power. Where do we write that? On the top of the fraction or the bottom of the fraction? On the bottom of the fraction, because technically you have x to the third and x to the seventh, okay? And when you cancel out, you have x to the fourth on the bottom of your fraction. Okay, so wherever your bigger number is kind of where your answer would go. Okay, and then over here, what do we have here? Y squared, and where do we put y squared? On the top. That one's a little more easy. Come on, pen. Okay, so I need to use my other pen here. Okay, so now you just kind of smush these together. Okay, just kind of smush these together, and we have 3x to the fourth. We have y squared on the top. Smush is a real good math word, isn't it? Okay, questions on that one? Those should be easy. Don't overthink them. Don't get overwhelmed with them, okay? Okay, now, over here, number 2, just look at the top. Don't even look at the bottom of the fraction. Don't look at the denominator. On the top, what can we factor out? What will they both divide by? A 2. What else will they both divide by? An x squared. Okay, so 2x squared is your GCF. Okay, so what is 8 divided by 2? 4. And what is x to the third divided by x squared? X. And then over here, what's 2x squared divided by 2x squared? Yeah, it makes a what, though? A 1. It makes a 1. So it's very important to make sure you use your ones. Don't just say, oh, it's not there, okay? Then on the bottom of the fraction, in the denominator, what will they both divide by? An x. And so that's your GCF. When you divide 4x squared by x, what do you get? You get a 4, and you get an x left over. And what is x divided by x? A 1, and it's a minus 1. Okay, so here's the fun part. Okay, the fun part is that these 4x minus 1s cancel out. Okay? And so what are you left with? You're left with 2x squared over x, but they have some canceling out. They have some reducing or some simplifying that they can do. How do they simplify? Yeah, the x's cancel out, right? It's because you have 2xx over x, cancel out. You're left with a 2x on the top of the fraction. Okay? So if you get stuck, guys, in your thinking, instead of sitting there and thinking and getting distracted, go ahead and just write them out like this, okay? Stretch them out, and that'll help you. Okay. So on the next page, Okay? On the top, do we have any factoring to do? Is there anything they have alike? This x minus 5? No. So 4x squared and 20x. Let me use blue again. Okay. So we have x minus 5 on the top. 40x squared and 20x, what do they have in common? They have a 4 in common, and what else? An x in common. So that's your GCF that you have to make sure you write. And when you divide 4x squared divided by x, what do you get? The 4's cancel out. X squared divided by x is an x. The x's cancel out here, and negative 20 divided by 4 is negative 5. What happens to the x minus 5's? They cancel out. What do you have left? A 4x. Where is your 4x? On the bottom. So what do you put on the top in the numerator? A 1. Okay? So don't be going so fast that you get tripped up and you just put a 4x. Okay? Okay. So over here on number 4, in the numerator, what do we have? What will they both divide by? A 9. And so that's our GCF, 9. And when we divide by 9, what do we get? X plus 4. Very good. And we have 9x on the bottom. Okay, is there an x plus 4 on the bottom in the denominator to cancel out? No. But what does cancel out? The 9's do. Okay? So now we have x plus 4 over x. Okay, questions so far? The x's don't cancel out, like here, you mean? Oh, no, not here. Yeah, don't cancel those out. And that's, until you get used to it, your brain wants to do that. This x plus 4, they're a team. And so x plus 4 and x don't cancel out. Okay? If it had been written like this, like an x times a 4 over an x, you could have canceled those out. But because of that plus sign there, that makes it not possible to cancel out. That is a whole term. That's one whole term right there. Okay? Okay, so that's your answer right there. So moving right along here. Okay, number 5. To me, this is written backward. We need to fix it. Okay? So we need to say negative x plus 2. That negative sign goes with that x right there. And that this 2 is positive. So it's negative x plus 2. But then we don't really ever want to start our first term off with a negative. Okay? So we're going to take negative x plus 2 and divide it by that negative so that we can get that negative out of there as the first term. So we end up with what? X minus 2. So I wish we would have put that on the worksheet yesterday to practice it a little bit, but I didn't know to put it on the worksheet until I started working the answer keys to this. So you're going to end up, you have a couple on your worksheet today that you're going to need to kind of maybe refer back to this part, okay? Okay, so now on the bottom in the denominator, what will they both divide by? A 3. And you get x what? Minus 2. What happens to the x minus 2's? They cancel out. Okay, what's left over? Okay, well, a negative 1/3. Okay, that 3 is on the bottom in the denominator, so it's not just a whole number 3. Okay, it's a fraction of negative 1/3. Okay, so that number 5 is a good one to remember you have to refer back to on how to do that. Okay, easy peasy over here. Okay, these are those easy ones to factor that I stomp my foot and throw a fit because y'all can't do. Okay, how do you factor this one? X plus 7, x minus 7. This is one of those difference of 2 squares. Okay? Then on the bottom, we have x plus 7. What happens? Cancel, cancel. And so we get x minus 7 is our answer. Okie doke. Then the last two, if the Promethean board will move quickly here. Okay, so let me erase this. Okay. so on the top in the numerator, what will 2x and x both divide by? 2. Very good. And so 2 is our GCF. And when we divide 2 x by 2, what do we get? X minus 3. And then in the denominator, in the bottom, what will they both divide by? Oh, you know what? We're going to make a correction here. We're going to add an x to that 24x. Okay? Okay, so add an x to that 24. Okay, now what will they both divide by? 8x, 8x, 8x over here. Okay, so now 8x squared divided by x is x. And these x's cancel out. What's negative 24 divided by 8? Negative 3. What happens to our x minus 3's? Cancel out. Now, we're left with 2 over 8x. So if you have something here, you've got to reduce it. Okay? If it reduces. 2/8 happens to reduce. What does 2/8 reduce to? 1/4. And don't forget your x when you write it. Okay? Questions? It's pretty easy once you get kind of the routine. Just make sure you get the routine. Okay? Okay, on the top in the numerator, what will they both divide by? 2x and 4 will both divide by 2. So we get a 2 on the outside as our GCF. And when we divide them, what do we get? X minus 2. Very good. Now, on the bottom, we actually get to kind of practice some factoring skills. Some what multiplies that adds. Okay, so what does multiply to negative 6 that adds to 1? Okay, we know it's a 3 and a 2. We know that the signs are going to have to be different because we're trying to get a negative 6 when they multiply. One's going to be a positive, one's going to be a negative. So they have to add to a positive 1. So the larger number gets this sign right here out of 3 and 2. 3 is larger. So now who cancels out? The x minus 2, x minus 2's. And we get 2 over x minus 3. Okay? Okay, questions? Okay, and you may just have some questions once you get started. Okay.